Borderline personality disorder exists in that middle zone between the neurotic disorders that occur after the basic personality is formed age 5 and over, and the psychotic disorders that are thought to have a biological basis. Psychotic disorders. I consider the psychotic disorders to be the most serious and debilitating. These include schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, and bipolar disorder. This is not a complete list. During a psychotic episode, people lose touch with reality, may have hallucinations and/or delusions, and are likely to experience other people and events in a highly distorted way. They often cannot think clearly. The choices that people make during a psychotic episode can be destructive to their life goals and very disruptive to the lives of the people who care about them. We have medications that can help with the symptoms, but they are chronic illnesses for which at present we have no cure. Psychotherapy aimed at people with psychotic disorders generally focuses on getting clients to pay attention to their stress levels to head off a psychotic episode or minimize a recurrence, educating the patient and the family about the nature of the disorder, and evaluating the effects of the medication. Neurotic disorders. The term neurotic is not actually used very often these days. It had been used to describe conflicts that arose during what Freud called the Oedipal period of child development at about age 5. The personality is basically already formed by then. The later problems are add-ons to the existing personality, so they are fairly easy to treat by most therapists, unless they involve severe trauma. Their main symptoms are anxiety, depression, and various types of inhibitions. Personality disorders. This is the middle zone of seriousness. Personality disorders, such as borderline PD, narcissistic PD, and schizoid PD start before the age of 4 when the personality is still being formed. They are believed to result from the interaction of children, each with his or her own inborn temperament, with their caregivers. Personality disorders can be viewed as an adaptive attempt by a particular child to maximize the amount of love, attention, and support that he or she can get from parents or other primary caregivers. Unlike the psychotic disorders, personality disorders are treatable by appropriate psychotherapy, but they are more complex and harder to treat than the neuroses. The role of object relations. From an object relations theoretical point of view, in order to be diagnosed with a personality disorder, you need to lack whole object relations and object constancy. This essentially means that the person cannot form and maintain a stable, integrated, and realistic view of him, herself and other people. Instead, they only can switch back and forth between two equally unrealistic points of view. Someone is either all bad or all good. During a fight, they will not be able to maintain their positive feelings for someone they love when they feel hurt, disappointed, frustrated, or angry with them. They can go from the extremes of love to hatred, and back again. Obviously, this makes their sense of identity and their relationships with other people inherently unstable and easily disrupted. Borderline personality disorder. BPD fits into the personality disorder category. How serious it is depends on the person's level of functioning. Basically, most people with BPD have similar issues. Here are a few of the most common issues associated with BPD. Love, an obsessive preoccupation with love and reparenting, under the guise of an adult romantic relationship, as the solution to all their problems. Fear of abandonment, a very strong, often unwarranted concern, that someone they value will abandon them. Fear of engulfment, many people with BPD were used as an emotional caretaker for one of their parents. As adults, they fear that instead of their partner meeting their emotional needs, they will become engulfed by their partner's emotional needs. Feel more childlike than adult. Many clients with BPD report that even when they are competently dealing with adult responsibilities, they feel as if they are really still children or teens. They wish that some real adult will come along and take care of them. Emotional dysregulation. They have stronger emotional reactions to most situations and often find their negative emotions very hard to tolerate. Level of functioning. How serious their disorder is and how much it interferes with their daily life and the lives of their loved ones depends on their level of functioning. Generally, only the lowest functioning clients who qualify for a diagnosis of borderline personality disorder ever get the diagnosis. Brief history of the borderline diagnosis. The very low-functioning group of people who tend to act impulsively, spray everyone else with their problems, become suicidal or briefly psychotic is the group that was first called borderline. They were considered untreatable by psychoanalysis. In the earliest use of the term borderline, it was not yet differentiated into the separate personality disorders that we recognize today. It was a catch-all term to describe the varied group of people who were thought to inhabit the border between neurosis and psychosis. As time went on, different theorists separated this rather large group of people into separate subgroups depending on their pattern of symptoms and behaviors. There are different schools of thought about how many subgroups there are, whether these subgroups are variations of one thing or entirely different disorders, and so on. I subscribe to James F. Masterson's system of classification that divides most of the various permutations of personality disorders that are listed in the DSM-5 into only 3 main groups, and includes some of the others as subsets of these main 3. Borderline narcissistic schizoid. As you can see, the meaning of the term borderline has shifted from being the name for every disorder between psychotic and neurotic to only one specific type of this larger group. The good news, borderline personality disorder is very treatable. We now have a variety of therapies designed to help people with these issues. In addition, studies show that for most people, a great deal of the emotional turmoil decreases with age. Often, the moderate to high-functioning borderline clients who I see in private practice are handling their lives well enough that only their close friends, spouses, and relatives are likely to recognize that they have problems that qualify for this diagnosis. The general rule, the higher the person's functioning level, the easier they are to help in psychotherapy. Borderline personality disorder becomes very serious at the lowest level of functioning. This is the group that finds it hard to form stable relationships, show up for work every day, come to therapy regularly, and manage their adult responsibilities. They have trouble maintaining themselves between psychotherapy sessions and often feel quite desperate. Members of the low-functioning group of people with BPD are more likely to threaten to commit suicide, cut themselves, develop severe eating disorders, and abuse alcohol and drugs. They have a much higher rate of suicide than higher-functioning people with BPD. Some may decompensate and really become psychotic and may need to be hospitalized for a few days. However, unlike the clients with psychotic illnesses, they usually reconstitute and stop having psychotic symptoms fairly quickly. Punchline: having borderline personality disorder is serious enough to cause you a great deal of emotional pain and may interfere with your ability to stay motivated to achieve your goals. But, the higher functioning you are, the easier life will be for you. No matter what your level of functioning, there are now a variety of effective therapies available to help you heal.